Free energy now.
Imagine a world in which each home has its own power generator that obtains its energy in such a way that no fuel has to be added. Imagine every vehicle being able to run without ever stopping for fuel. Imagine each appliance having its own power source that never has to be recharged. That is the world of the future. Join with us now as we track our progress towards such a world.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sterling Allen. You can join us online at freeenergyquest.com. We're joined today, November 4th, 2014, Election Day, by me. I am going to be going solo today. And boy, do we have a show for you. Lots to talk about. And I tried hard to get a guest. I promise I did. I probably sent out 10 emails to some really amazing potential guests, including Linda Moulton Howe from earthfiles.com. We'd love to have her on to talk about her experience over the years with free energy. What has she come across? Has she seen stuff? What has she heard? What has she been able to document? She is really a good journalist. I have a lot of respect for her. And I bet you anything, she has some interesting things to say along these lines. And anyway, I won't belabor all the different people I try to contact to come on this show. And some of them couldn't come on today. We'll be able to come on in the future. And we've got them on the schedule at freeenergyquest.com, so you can check that out. We do have a great lineup. Today, I thought, I want to talk to my audience about the subject that so many of them have been squeamish about. They just don't like this subject for some reason. I love it. Before I tell you what we're going to be talking about, I'm going to say that this subject I consider to be, in my life personally, more important than my work with free energy. That what I have to offer the world on this subject will weigh more strongly than what I have brought to the world by way of my coverage in the last 12 and a half years of the various exotic free energy technologies that have been emerging and are poised to make a huge difference on the planet, giving power to the people, both literally and figuratively. We have been the foremost news service in free energy, exotic free energy, since we launched 12 and a half years ago. We've got the leading directory service at pezwiki.com. Freeenergynews.com is our news link. Now that forwards to the home page at Pezwiki. PESN.com, where we host our feature stories, our interviews and whatnot with inventors as I travel around the world, meeting with these different people and checking out their claims and reporting on great developments. All of that pales in comparison to this other thing that I have discovered about twice as long ago as I started this free energy quest. I discovered a code that I have come to call Alphabetics. Now I've said it. And before those of you who have decided that you don't like Alphabetics, you think it's just silliness and of no use and of no value, I just beseech of you to hear me out. What is Alphabetics? And why is it significant? And why should we be paying attention to it? What is it about? Or is it just straining at a gnat or finding interesting shapes in a cloud that may be interesting, but you could find anything you want in anything if you use your imagination enough. And so what's the big deal? Why should that be of any value? So let's talk about it. Let me try and make my case. And let me say that in preparation for the show, about an hour and a half ago, I decided, okay, it's drop dead time here. The show's in an hour and a half. I haven't been able to get anyone scheduled. I actually had somebody scheduled, and then turns out that they had something going on with their kids that they forgot about and couldn't come on. Singer, musician, Bob Sima, a nationally touring award-winning singer, songwriter. Anyway, that's going to be on November 18th. We've postponed that. And so with an hour and a half left, I thought, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take the show. I'm going to do it myself. And I've got lots to say. And, typically I've been doing this stuff on my sterlingsundayschool.com show on Sundays, where I get into the, more religious subjects and stuff that I'm finding along the lines of the topics that are being covered in the local Sunday school. I just take it at a much deeper level. And so I get plenty of venting. I've got a platform there, and I'm able to share all my stuff there. And so this is designed today to be an introduction of that topic to this audience, the freeenergyquest.com audience. Whoever you are, wherever you may be, I hope you'll enjoy this and pay some attention, because I think what we are going to be talking about is very significant, very cool, and very monumental in Earth history, and will be borne out profoundly in the days to come. And again, I think this discovery that I made is going to be seen as a greater contribution than my contribution in exotic free energy technology, which has been and will continue to be very significant. So, with that introduction, as I was preparing for the show today, I thought I'd pull up something specific, and what I was going to title this is Free Energy in Alphabetics. And I gave a presentation along these lines at the Global Breakthrough Energy Movement Conference in Boulder a year and a month ago. It was very well received by those who attended. I thought that the audience was very generous, paid close attention, and followed what I had to say. We don't have as much time here today as we did then to be able to dig in and go as deep and as far, develop the ideas as much as we did at that presentation. That is available online. It's on YouTube, a video of it. It's on my channel. I can't remember how to find that, but it shouldn't be too hard. It's probably, if you go to sterlingspresentations.com, it'll be listed there chronologically, again, last year, October 2013. So if you want to get a deeper version of this, that's where you can go. Anyway, I thought, well, okay, let's pull up something unique to this program today. Just look something up as an example. And so I took the URL of this show, http://www.rentsradioarchives.com/free_energy/. Every one of those characters, I went to a program that converts characters on the keyboard into their ASCII code equivalent, which the computer uses to tell what zeros and ones to arrange to turn that into computer language, so you can then send it across the world on the World Wide Web. And it turns out, as you take each number or each letter, each on the keyboard, each character on the keyboard has a numeric value. And so I can't remember exactly what it is. For example, E might be 36. And N might be, numerically add however many further along it is in the alphabet, it'd be like 40-something, for example. And then you total all those up, and it comes to 4,546 is the ASCII value equivalent of the URL of this show. And I was I went and I jumped right into the deep end with you. I haven't even told you what Alphabetics is yet. And here I'm telling you about something I discovered today. I'm going to put that on hold and back up a little bit and tell you what Alphabetics is, and then we'll come back to this. But I want to tell you that what I looked up today actually describes the first guest that I invited for today, who had to postpone, and in a really amazing way. I mean, we're talking spot on the day of a show that I looked up. This number is describing by specific name the guest I was going to have on today in two different ways. So what Alphabetics is it takes the way I found this was in the Old and New Testament lexicon, which is a listing of all the words in the Old Testament. And when I say Old and New Testament, don't tune me out. I'm not this Bible thumper who's going to, shove Jesus down your throat. That's not what this is about. This is finding secret hidden codes in ancient texts with such specificity in modern times that it is so astonishing that it's almost impossible to believe that it's intentional, because it is so specific. It's like, oh, give me a break. It is totally, totally specific of the who's who, what's what, when, why, where, and how of the great and marvelous work of God in these latter days, as all the evil is overthrown and good is reinstated on the planet, and good things come forth, and a new heaven and new earth emerge. This is describing. It tells you the very specifics of the who, what, when, why, where, and how. And the way it does it is the alphabetical sequence of words. James Strong, about 100-some plus years ago, turn of the century, went through and he numbered all the words listed alphabetically in the Old Testament and the New Testament. And there are over 8,000 words in the Old Testament Hebrew, which is what the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. And there are over 5,000 words in the New Testament in Greek. And he assigned numbers to those so the lexicographers who give definitions for these words could have a consistent or standard numbering code. And he established the standard for that. And as far as I know, if not all, lexicographers use his numbering. And it turns out that those numbers correspond. If you look up your phone number in the lexicon, chances are, if you have some patience, sometimes it's immediately obvious, sometimes it's not as obvious right up front, and then later as you start pondering on it, you go, oh my gosh. And you see stuff that was like, that you didn't see at first. It's even more profound that something might be obvious at first. So you can look up your phone number, you can look up your birthday and year, your month and year. You can look up your name inserted alphabetically, look at the words before and after it, and it describes you and what you're about and what's going on at that address or that phone number or your social security number. It has to do with resonance. This isn't magic. This isn't fate. This isn't predestination. It's resonance. It's the same principle as we had an interesting thing happen in the last couple of days. We had 3 of our 8 or so regular attenders of the New Energy Congress that meets on a weekly basis on a conference call to talk about the leading technologies and what we can do to help bring them forward. It's about an hour-and-a-half meeting each week. And yesterday was Mike Waters' birthday, who's the president of NEST. And the day before that was Emmanuel and Richard's Barry's birthday. So 3 of the 8 members had birthdays on 2 days. And what I like to do when people have birthdays, and on Skype, they have this little thing that pings on you and says, hey, such and such, birthday today. And I've got this little text that I've got that I copy and paste in and send them a message saying, hey, you got to go check out this website where you can look up your birthday, and it basically takes a collection of people born on that day and comes up with a common traits of people born on that day. And so it's the secret language of birthdays.com, including the word the secret language of birthdays.com. And then they also have a thing where you can look up 2 birthdays at the same time, you and another person, and see what your relationship might entail. So it takes this cross-section of people born on that day and says, here are the things that are in common that we found of, some 20,000 people that they checked out over like 20 years that they did this study. And it's been phenomenal. It's very fun, very entertaining to do this, and very insightful. And the reason that it works is the same principle of resonance. It's not magic. It's not fate. It's not predestination. It's not that we're put into some kind of mold and have to be a certain way. It's just, it has to do with resonance, that we choose, before we're born, we choose where we're going to be born, what parents we're going to have, our family members, what our strengths are going to be, what our weaknesses are going to be, what our mission in life is going to be, what we want to come and accomplish. We choose most all of that. There's going to be some, wild cards thrown in, but nothing that we can't handle. And so the day we're born is something we choose before we're born, and the circumstances of our birth, because it has a lot of bearing on who we are. And this thing that I've sent out to people, and I've been doing this for 2 or 3 years now, and almost always I get a very interesting response back, like, "Whoa, that's really cool! That's amazing how applicable that is," or something along those lines. And so go try it, just to demonstrate this principle of resonance. Go look up your birthday at thesecretlanguageofbirthdays.com and see how applicable it is. And it's not because you're forced to be that way. It's not because they're magic and they figured you out. They're talking about everyone born on that day. That 90% of the people have these traits, or 90% of these traits you will probably find to be in common, and will be in relevance to you, will be insightful, will be good advice. So this Alphabetics is the same kind of thing. It has to do with resonance. That that certain numbers have a certain frequency. And so the address on the front of your house has to do with the frequency that you're vibrating at. That has to do with choices that you're making in your life right now. And one of the things that happens is, as you look up these numbers, there's all kinds of ways that they can apply. Sometimes it's an opposite. For example, a house number that I had back early when I was discovering this code was 666. And in Ephraim, Utah, 666 South, 60 East. And Ephraim, the word Ephraim is on page 666 of the LDS Topical Guide. So I had a double whammy of 666. And you say, "Oh, why are you proud of that?" I'm not proud. Well, it's not that I'm not proud of that. It's that I took the opposite, because as you look up a word, every word has a synonym and an antonym. There are the words that are like it, and there are words that are opposite of it. And so I said, well, I'm going to choose the opposite of that. But I also had some funky stuff going on in my life at that time, too, where the 666 actually had a direct application. And so, we don't need to go into all of that, but just as an example of this resonance thing. And as you look stuff up, sometimes it plays on words. It sometimes is hilarious what goes on with this. So with that introduction of the alphabets, of this coding, let me give you an example. In looking up for this show today, I took the URL of my page at rentsradio.archive.com, and I took the ASCII equivalent value. Let me just tell you first, a couple of months ago, I looked up the word alphabetics, which is the name of this process that we're talking about, of looking up the alphabetical sequence and looking up numbers associated with the alphabetical sequence, looking at the words before and after. Like as you're turning the radio up and down on a station, it's strongest on the signal. But as you dial it up or dial it down, on the old radios where you had a knob and you could turn it up and down, it was still fairly strong. And then as you got a little further away from the station, it would go to static or go to the next station. And that's the same way with alphabetics, is that you can look at words before and after, sometimes quite far away from that number or that word, and still have relevance. You can do this in the English language too. Look up your name in the English dictionary and then look at the words around it, and think about what they have to do with you and what kind of commentary or what kind of insight that they might provide. And so when I looked up the word alphabetics in ASCII code, and I looked up the word number according to that sum of the number values, the word right before it is gramma, Gramma, which has to do with the alphabet. And so it was it showed, number one, a direct tie, used the word alphabet in the word, and it was one away from it, which was one of the tools of Alphabetics, is you don't just look at the word, but you look at the words around it. So it had both of those elements in it. I give that as an example to show you how profound and exact the corroboration of this is as you look at the evidence around it. And let me tell you that in the past 20 years, I discovered this in 97, and I have found thousands, I've looked up thousands of things, and every time, without exception, there has been relevance, and most of the time it's extremely profound. And it is totally amazing. And I don't know why people have a hard time picking this up or understanding or appreciating it, because to me it's just like totally astonishing. This is like modern parables on steroids. This is like, you know, Jesus gives a parable to the crowd, and they're using these analogies to read into it what he's saying. This parable talks about you and where you were born and who your friends are and what your mission is in life by the number, by the date, by the year. I mean, it's amazing how specific this is. And at least that's been my experience. And I'm guessing that the degree of relevancy has to do with how in line you are with, you know, God's work, so to speak. The more or less evolved you are, the less chance you're even going to look stuff up. But I would guess that this will apply to everyone, every single human on the planet. Will, if they look up stuff about them, around them, with their names, their insertion point of their name alphabetically, in whatever language it is, you know, translate it to Chinese or whatever, every single person on the planet is going to find relevance using this methodology. But the more aligned you are with the work of God, the more specific and amazing it's going to be. After the break, we'll pick up.
Known worldwide as the most consistently fascinating, informative, and unique program on radio, the Jeff Rense program can be yours to listen to anytime, anywhere, whenever you want to hear it. For pennies a day, our subscribers can download any of Jeff's thousands of programs featuring a treasury of newsmakers, researchers, eyewitnesses, and incredible subjects, all in MP3 commercial-free, crystal-clear 56-bit digital sound, and take these often unforgettable programs with them wherever they go. As a subscriber, you can also listen live at airtime, online, anywhere in the world, or browse through our archives of over 6,000 hours of legendary broadcasts. Subscribe now by taking the link at the top of Rense.com and enrich your mind with the most unique panorama of vital information and the best independent, honest journalism in radio. Look for the Subscribe Now link on Rense.com and give yourself the knowledge you need for these unprecedented times.
Presently, a leading technology in our top 5 exotic free energy technologies listing is what we call hydroxy technology, in which onboard electrolysis creates hydrogen and oxygen. Unseparated, it's also called Brown's gas, or HHO. By then adding this to the fuel, the mileage and horsepower of an engine can be significantly improved while reducing emissions. One of the reasons for this is that Brown's gas breaks down the larger chain fuel molecules so they can be utilized and not exhausted unburned. There are many companies worldwide that are making and selling these hydroxy systems. We've compiled a list for you at besthydroxytechnologies.com. One of my favorites is Green Fuel H2O. They haven't yet sold as many as the 2 companies ahead of them, but they have a great product and service. Go to greenwaterfuel.com, which will credit us with the referral. Again, that's greenwaterfuel.com.
The word is out. GetTheT.com. People are waking up to all natural products that help your health. GetTheT.com is the web address to optimum health naturally. Life Change Tea is not just green tea. It is a blend of 8 herbs, specially blended to work and help with your digestive tract. When your stomach feels good, You feel good. Get rid of the yuck that stores up in your colon. Lose some weight naturally. Feel good and enhance your energy. All natural, no caffeine, and it tastes great. Don't wait. Order now at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. 928-308-0408. Tired of the fear of health loss and sickness? Give your immune system some love. Log on to getthetea.com. Life's too short to worry and fear. It's time to smile at your doctors naturally. Getthetea.com.
As you listen to and benefit from this Free Energy Quest show, as we track the many cutting-edge clean energy technologies likely to not only be ecological, but economical as well, we would like to remind you that we are listener-supported. You can send donations via PayPal to donate@pesn.com, or you can click on the donate link found on our web pages. You might consider a monthly pledge. You're welcome to send us ideas about possible advertisers or products to present to our esteemed audience via that email as well. Because we spend so much time doing the news, we don't spend quite as much time as we should looking for advertisers and items we can sell in our store, a process that can be quite time-consuming. So presently, we depend on your donations to help keep us afloat. With your assistance, we can help transform this planet from a scarcity slave mentality to an abundance creator mentality with exotic free energy technologies bringing power and freedom to the people. Again, that email address is donate@pesn.com.
Free energy, now!
Welcome back to the show. We have been talking about Alphabetics that I discovered in '97, this phenomenon. I was telling you that I looked up the word Alphabetics at ASCIIvalue.com, and I took the first row of those, which is the ASCII equivalent, the numeric equivalent, totals up, and it's 1,120. And the word right after that, word 1121, in the New Testament lexicon, gramma, means that which is written, letter of the alphabet, a book, letter, bond, and so forth. The letters of the alphabet as used in scriptures as the object of study or knowledge, unquote. That is about as specific description of what Alphabetics is about as you could get, and it is right there in the ASCII value number in the New Testament lexicon. And that's just one of a gazillion examples I could give you. Every time I look something up, it's just like, boom, nailed. It's just right on. And so, anyway, I was starting to tell you about this. I looked up the ASCII value of this Rense Radio archives.com/free energy with all the underscores and forward slashes included. Those each letter of the keyboard has a numeric value. So the colon, for example, has a numeric value, and that adds to the total, and it comes to 4546. Word number 4546 in the Old Testament lexicon means highway, a public way, a course of life, ladder, steps. And I have this actually listed. If you go to alphabetics.me, which is a shortcut to our greaterthings.com location for all this stuff that I've found, that's actually a highlighted example that I give of Alphabetics, because the word right before highway is web. You have web, highway, or internet encoded in Alphabetics. Those two words are right next to each other, web and highway, which is this whole idea, sorry about the interruption there, of this whole idea of the internet. And so what does that have to do with my website, or this page at Rense Radio where free energy, our archives are found for this show? For me personally, I think that's pretty cool, because this is our presence on the web. It is largely this show right now. This is a big part of what I'm doing on a weekly basis. We have 2 shows a week. We've been doing it for 6 months here, and it ties into this web address of the radio show. is pretty cool. And also it's a public way. A Course of Life, these ladder steps, ties into what we're doing specifically in helping people understand both the energy and the social and the spiritual understandings of what we're supposed to be doing. But now here's the kicker. That word falls on page 490 of the Old Testament lexicon. And 490 I had just looked up the week before because it's the last four digits. 0490 are the last four digits of my guest that I was going to have on today. And then her name is Becky Sampson. I met her last Sunday at the baptism of my four children in Ephraim, Utah. They were getting baptized into the Mormon Church. We had this baptism, and she was playing the piano because I wasn't in there yet, and people were gathered, and I was supposed to be playing the piano. As a context for this, I've been kicked out of all Mormon assemblies worldwide based on a false allegation. That's a completely different story. You can read about that at tinyurl.com/Sterling Band with capital S, capital B. You can read the letter that I got and the reasons that they gave and why that totally unfounded. There's no incident that they talked about. There's no total craziness. They kicked me out of all Mormon buildings, properties worldwide, and I had to get an exception in order to show up at church to go to my kid's baptism into the Mormon Church. Total irony. So she was sitting there playing the piano, and I went up and I said, okay, thank you. And she got up, and I sat down and played the piano. And then afterwards, she was sitting there at a table, and I sat down, and we started talking, and she is extremely interesting. She wants to start 500 healing centers in 5 years. She has lost 130 pounds, looks amazing. And she is very much a healer and into all kinds of outside-the-box stuff, and ended up going with the people in Safe Haven Villages, which we founded about 4 or 5 years ago. We had this intentional community project here in Utah, and several of us, my ex-wife's mom and her husband, and Renee, and the guy that got me started on free energy, Welton Myers, was with us back 12 and a half years ago. That's the guy that got me going in this whole free energy world. He was with us. We went down to see her property, her family's property, down by Bicknell, Utah. It's beautiful, gorgeous, over by what's that called? It's like the Grand Canyon type of beauty as you go a little further down the road. So it's just amazing energy and whatnot there. And she showed us they have like these 100 people gatherings that come and camp, they call it. And so we went to her property and had a great time and had a lot of conversation. I wanted to have her on my show to talk about these healing centers that she wants to start up. And she had to check her schedule, and turns out she's not going to be able to come on today. So anyway, that's her phone number on that page. And then I looked up word number 4546 in the New Testament lexicon, and it's Samson, her last name. So total craziness. I mean, and it means sun-like, which, and then as you look up the word in the Old Testament lexicon that is Samson is an Old Testament word, it gives 8123 in the Old Testament, and it specifically says solar. So today's topic for this show I was going to have is free energy in alphabetics. Solar is the conventional free energy source. It's the wheelwork of nature that we get at the harvest. That is something everyone can relate to. Everyone can understand solar energy. That's no magic about that. We know the sun is hot. We know that we can put solar panels up and convert that to electricity. We can put thermal panels up and convert that to heat for our water in the house, etc. There's tons of different modalities of solar. And this word is the word for solar in the Old Testament. If you look up, if you go to look up solar, it's Samson. And that's her last name, ties into this free energy that we're doing. It's like the catch-all word, the most easy to understand word for free energy is solar. And we take it beyond that, my dad, as I was growing up, was doing solar panels on our house in Boulder, Colorado. And, I can totally relate to that because I now am leapfrogging on that into the exotic free energy technologies that people don't appreciate yet. Things like zero-point energy, cold fusion, magnet motors, and things like that are supposed to be impossible according to modern physics, but there are working prototypes out there, and we're trying to bring those into people's awareness and help bring them to market. And so that word ties into the topic of free energy. It means solar, and it's the name of the guest I was going to have on today's show. And it just happened to be that today was when the angels inspired me to look up this URL as an example for this show. And, I mean, I think that's pretty cool. And I don't know why people have a hard time or just write it off as being, oh, that you're just grasping at straws, you're making stuff up, you can read anything you want in the clouds. You can see the Declaration of Independence, if you want it, spelled out in the cloud. Just use your imagination long enough. They see that as what Alphabetics is about. When what I just showed you was so specific of the name, phone number, the last name, exact spelling of the guest I was going to have on today by using the URL of the show, which ties into the topic, the general topic, solar, of free energy, which is the most widely accepted, understood word that refers to free energy that people can relate to. And then on the next page is my wife's birthday, 1279. This is in the New Testament lexicon. Her last name is Moon. So now you have another play on words. You have sun and moon. And I won't go into that there, what is on that page, because it's a little bit personal. And I don't want her to get mad at me for what it has to say. And that's my ex-wife, Sherry. And by the way, if you look up the word for divorce, we got divorced a month and a half ago. Actually, it's a month and a half ago. If you look up the word for divorce in the Old Testament lexicon, the word right before it is transliterated Sherry, C-H-E-R-I, and then it has a T-H at the end, which is the word for like completion. It's like the end of the Sherry era, so to speak. And the word immediately before it is straight out C-H-E-R-I, transliterated. That's my wife's name, is the word immediately before the word for divorce. And so you say, well, how many billions of people have been touched by divorce on this planet? Why is it that your wife's name is the one that, well, I guess it's because I'm the one who discovered Alphabetics and I get to get some bragging rights, I guess. There's more to it than that. But, the very first word in the Hebrew lexicon, alphabetically listed, is father, Ab, A-B. Aleph Bet is how it's spelled. So the thing that's significant about that, Jesus said, I'm Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. And tying into the things of God being this Alpha and Omega idea. And this actually ties into free energy too, because the very last word, the very last definition in the Old Testament lexicon means gift. Which ties into the idea of gift of salvation. It's not something that we earn. It's something that God gives us. All we have to do is turn our hearts to Him. He gives us a new heart. We come forth with a broken heart, contrite spirit, say we've messed up. He comes in, He gives us a new heart, and it's a gift. And free energy is the same genre. It's the same thing, because here we have this planet that's totally messed up the planet. They've messed up the politics. They've messed up the education. They've messed up everything. They've messed up the health. Everything's upside down, needs to be turned right side up. And the solutions that are available from nature and from goodness are totally a gift that, if we will just step into it, are there for us to have. These free energy technologies, this will work of nature, is there for us to have in abundance, inexhaustible, ubiquitous, everywhere you go, available, and it's a gift. And that ties into free energy. That's the last word in the Old Testament. The first word is Father, Aleph Bet. Aleph is the first letter of the English or the Hebrew alphabet. And the Greek equivalent is alpha. So if you take the Greek equivalent, alpha, and the Hebrew, bet, you have alphabet. And so the very word for father is alphabet in the Old Testament or in the Hebrew. And so Alphabetics is a testament of the Father to the end times of the work of the Father among his people to help them understand who they are, what's going on. And the word for you in the Old Testament is spelled Aleph Tau. Aleph, again, is the first letter of the alphabet, and Tau is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So the word for you is Aleph Tau, the beginning and the end, the Alpha and Omega. You, every one of you, everyone listening to this and everyone on the planet is Alpha and Omega. If you think about the human body, every cell of the body has the exact same DNA in it. There's 4 trillion cells on average in a human body, and every single cell has the exact same DNA. I learned this from my biology class at BYU when I was going as an undergraduate degree in medical microbiology. And so every cell has the same DNA, but it's manifest or is that the DNA is not manifest as red or is, well, I can't remember the exact word I'm looking for, but it is displayed, or it's the codons read certain portions of the DNA to be exhibited in that cell for that cell's function. And it's the same way. Every single human born to the planet has God within them. But how they manifest that is different from one person to the next. Everyone is unique, has a different mission, has a different purpose, has a different part in the body of Christ, and has that innate goodness within them if they will step into it. And we're all called to be ones mighty and strong in the Lord, to awake and put on strength. And Alphabetics is so rich in describing how to do this, what it's about, and why. And so anyway, that's pretty cool. And another one that I wanted to mention in this, I looked up rentsradioarchives.com, just the first portion of that, which is going to be tying into all the shows on the Rents Radio Network. And it comes to a total in ASCII, the total is 3289. And the word number 3289 in the Hebrew lexicon means to give counsel, consult, predict the future, consult one another, hold consultation. I think that fits pretty well what the Rents Radio Network's about. Is people consulting with another, having hosts having guests on to talk about things, to give counsel, to consult, predict the future, consult one another, hold consultation. I think that's pretty applicable. And in the Greek, in the New Testament, it's actually missing. There's actually a section of 100 words that James Strong, when he went through, inadvertently left out. He went from 3200 to 3301. He skipped a whole section of 101 words by having a dyslexic moment where he read 3200 and he went to 3301. He just, he messed up. He made a mistake. And it's funny because I have found that some of the coolest people that I know have phone numbers that insert at that point of the lexicon. It's like putting this big question mark on it, like, what's up with them? It's like putting this big, explanation point of this is something very important. And this is another case where the Rents Radio Archives shows up in the Greek in this missing section, this hidden, there's something ultra cool going on here. My dad and mom's phone number. We've had a couple of, 3 phone calls today here, people trying to call in here, is in that section. Sherry's mom's phone number is in that section. There's 3 or 4 other people that are really cool that their phone numbers are like in this hidden section of the lexicon. So anyway, for what that's worth, Another one that I wanted to share, this is something I gave in last year's presentation. If you look up the word for energy in the New Testament lexicon, and I had to find it another way. I think I had to look it up in the modern English, or I looked up through Google Translate. I looked up the English word energy, and then it gave me a translation for that. And it occurs in the lexicon immediately before a section of words that I found a couple of decades ago that parallel the founding of the United States of America, words 1770 through about 21 consecutive words give a year-by-year chronicle of the founding of the United States of America. For example, 1776 means to excite, disturb, trouble, annoy. I think that fits. It derives from a word that means disturbance. Synonyms: to trouble, disturb, agitate greatly, to throw into great trouble, to stir up, to cause an uproar, to make an outcry, to disturb, trouble with distress, to vex, to torture. That is the American Revolution, 1776. That's word number 1776. And every single word for 21 consecutive words is describing what happened on that year. I did a whole write-up on that. You go to greaterthings.com, 1776, and you'll see the write-ups that I've done on that. And anyway, I explained how this worked in my presentation last year. But the word for energy is 1753. And it ties in. The message that I get in that vicinity is that just as the American Revolution was tantamount, was fundamental to the establishment of freedom worldwide, free energy is all about freedom and is going to be bringing a new era on this planet as fundamental, if not more so, than 1776 and the revolution and the establishment of the Constitution of the United States. That is how important free energy is. It's on the same level as 1776 and what happened in that region, this rebellion against the corrupt powers that be that are oppressing us and trying to destroy our freedom and trying to turn us into slaves. And we rise up against that. We bring forth power to the people in a very literal and figurative way with these free energy technologies. And so there's a lot of cool stuff in that. And then just a couple other things. I'm going to give you an example of how specific this code can get. One of the things I brought up as I was preparing for this presentation in Boulder last year, I came across, I was also studying the numbers that relate to the total number of chapters in the Old Testament, number of chapters in the New Testament. And 260 is the number of chapters in the New Testament. And word number 260 in the Old Testament actually ties into it uses the word joined together, and it references Ezekiel 37 that says that, these two sticks shall be joined together in their hand so they become one. And it actually ties it. I showed how the number of chapters in the Book of Mormon quad with all the Old and New Testament and Book of Mormon Doctrine and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price, total 1580, and it ties, that also means joined together. And the word in the New Testament also ties into together. The word 260 in the New Testament lexicon and the Old Testament lexicon both use the word together, which is the number of chapters in the New Testament. That word number definition in the let's see here. This is word number 260 in the Old Testament. Has the word Rossi in it, Celsius, water, and it's the idea of cold fusion. Andrew Rossi's ECAT is totally coded in the New Testament, in the Old Testament lexicon, tied into this concept. So, gotta go. That's it. That's Link's episode on free energy. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Free Energy Now, brought to you by PES, Pure Energy Systems. You may access past archives and upcoming show info at freeenergynow.net. And join us for our daily news at freeenergynews.com. We invite you to see our directory of energy technologies at peswiki.com. That's peswiki.com. PES, the Pure Energy Systems Information Network.
You're listening to the Rents Radio Network, nationwide and worldwide on the net and at rents.com.
Free Energy Now.
Imagine a world in which each home has its own power generator that obtains its energy in such a way that no fuel has to be added. Imagine every vehicle being able to run without ever stopping for fuel. Imagine each appliance having its own power source that never has to be recharged. That is the world of the future. Join with us now as we track our progress towards such a world.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sterling Allen. You can join us online at freeenergyquest.com. We're joined today, November 4th, 2014, Election Day, by me. I am going to be going solo today. And boy, do we have a show for you. Lots to talk about. And I tried hard to get a guest. I promise I did. I probably sent out 10 emails, some really amazing potential guests, including Linda Moulton Howe from earthfiles.com. We'd love to have her on to talk about her experience over the years with free energy. What has she come across? Has she seen stuff? What has she heard? What has she been able to document? She is really a good journalist. I have a lot of respect for her. And I bet you anything, she has some interesting things to say along these lines. And anyway, I won't belabor all the different people I try to contact to come on the show. And some of them couldn't come on today. We'll be able to come on in the future. And we've got them on the schedule at freeenergyquest.com, so you can check that out. We do have a great lineup. Today, I thought, I want to talk to my audience about the talking about is very significant, very cool, and very monumental in Earth history, and will be borne out profoundly in the days to come. And again, I think this discovery that I made is going to be seen as a greater contribution than my contribution in exotic free energy technology, which has been and will continue to be very significant. So, with that introduction, as I was preparing for the show today, I thought I'd pull up something specific, and what I was going to title this is Free Energy in Alphabetics. And I gave a presentation along these lines at the Global Breakthrough Energy Movement Conference in Boulder a year and a month ago. It was very well received by those who attended. I thought that the audience was very generous, paid close attention, and followed what I had to say. We don't have as much time here today as we did then to be able to dig in and go as deep and as far, develop the ideas as much as we did at that presentation. That is available online. It's on YouTube, a video of it. It's on my channel. I can't remember how to find that, but it shouldn't be too hard. It's probably, if you go to sterlingspresentations.com, it'll be listed there chronologically, again, last year, October 2013. So if you want to get a deeper version of this, that's where you can go. Anyway, I thought, well, okay, let's pull up something unique to this program today. Just look something up as an example. And so I took the URL of this show, http://www.rentsradioarchives.com/ subject that so many of them have been squeamish about. They just don't like this subject for some reason. I love it. Before I tell you what we're going to be talking about, I'm going to say that this subject I consider to be, in my life personally, more important than my work with free energy. That what I have to offer the world on this subject will weigh more strongly than what I have brought to the world by way of my coverage in the last 12 and a half years of the various exotic free energy technologies that have been emerging and are poised to make a huge difference on the planet, giving power to the people, both literally and figuratively. We have been the foremost news service in free energy, exotic free energy, since we launched 12 and a half years ago. We've got the leading directory service at PezWiki.com. FreeEnergyNews.com is our news link. Now that forwards to the homepage at PezWiki. PESN.com, where we host our feature stories, our interviews and whatnot with inventors as I travel around the world, meeting with these different people and checking out their claims and reporting on great developments. All of that pales in comparison to this other thing that I have discovered about twice as long ago as I started this free energy quest. I discovered a code that I have come to call Alphabetics. Now I've said it. And before those of you who have decided that you don't like Alphabetics, you think it's just silliness and of no use and of no value, I just beseech of you to hear me out. What is Alphabetics? And why is it significant? And why should we be paying attention to it? What is it about? Or is it just straining at a gnat or finding interesting shapes in a cloud that may be interesting, but you could find anything you want in anything if you use your imagination enough. And so what's the big deal? Why should that be of any value? So let's talk about it. Let me try and make my case. And let me say that in preparation for the show, about an hour and a half ago, I decided, okay, it's drop dead time here. The show's in an hour and a half. I haven't been able to get anyone scheduled. I actually had somebody scheduled, and then turns out that they had something going on with their kids that they forgot about and couldn't come on. A singer, musician, Bob Saima, a nationally touring award-winning singer, songwriter. Anyway, that's going to be on November 18th. We've postponed that. And so with an hour and a half left, I thought, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take the show. I'm going to do it myself. And I've got lots to say. And, typically I've been doing this stuff on my SterlingSundaySchool.com show on Sundays, where I get into the, more religious subjects and stuff that I'm finding along the lines of the topics that are being covered in the local Sunday school. I just take it a much deeper level. And so I get plenty of venting. I've got a platform there, and I'm able to share all my stuff there. And so this is designed today to be an introduction of that topic to this audience, the FreeEnergyQuest.com audience. Whoever you are, wherever you may be, I hope you'll enjoy this and pay some attention, because I think what we are going to be talking free_energy / every one of those characters. I went to a program that converts characters on the keyboard into their ASCII code equivalent, which the computer uses to tell what zeros and ones to arrange to turn that into computer language, so you can then send it across the world on the World Wide Web. And it turns out, as you take each number or each letter, each on the keyboard, each character on the keyboard has a numeric value. And so I can't remember exactly what it is. For example, E might be 36, and N might be, numerically add however many further along it is in the alphabet. It'd be like 40 something, for example. And then you total all those up, and it comes to 4,546 is the ASCII value equivalent of the URL of this show. And I was I went and did. I jumped right into the deep end with you. I haven't even told you what Alphabetics is yet. And here I'm telling you about something I discovered today. I'm going to put that on hold and back up a little bit and tell you what Alphabetics is, and then we'll come back to this. But I want to tell you that what I looked up today actually describes the first guest that I invited for today who had to postpone, and in a really amazing way. I mean, we're talking spot on the day of a show that I looked up. This number is describing by specific name the guest I was going to have on today in two different ways. So what Alphabetics is it takes the way